the 77th Brigade, that bit of military intelligence that's supposed to keep its eye on the enemy, has been keeping its eye on us. That's nice, isn't it? The overarching idea is that the government, as it has been revealed, in the biggest inverted commas you can find, it's been revealed that during lockdown, during that whole 3-year cluster bleep, they were watching people who were arguing with them. They were watching people who were offering up contrary points of view, dissenters. Now, I'm being cynical about its being a surprise for obvious reasons, because none of it is a surprise for those of us who were out there in the trenches asking questions about lockdown and everything else. We knew all along, we knew from practically the beginning, that anyone speaking up, asking questions about the virus, about the lockdowns and everything else, we knew that people were being shadow banned, cancelled, they were being ridiculed, they were being demonised, their colleagues and workmates were being invited to look on them as pariah. We knew that, and yes, at the same time, we knew that we were being watched by the authorities. You know, people's content was being taken down, people were being driven from their jobs, and all of that, and at the same time, we knew that our voices were being paid attention to, and that people, certain people, journalists, people speaking out, doctors, various people from all walks of life had their names on the list. Don't tell him your name, Pike. You know, we were being watched by the authorities, and everybody knew it. So there's no surprise in it. I mean, for one reason, there's so many reasons why it wasn't a surprise. I've spoken about this recently, we live in a zero trust world now. Now, that zero trust is not the appellation that I'm applying. If you look into the work that's being done to establish the framework, to raise the scaffolding of the brave new world, of the Great Reset, they themselves, those architects, apply the term zero trust. The idea being that in the future, when we've all had our digital IDs forced upon us, you will exist in a state where you are guilty until you prove yourself innocent. The authorities, the online world, the gatekeepers of that brave new world, will regard you as a criminal, every one of us, unless and until you can prove that you're a goodie. And the only way you'll be able to do that is with your digital ID. So that if you don't accept your digital ID and use it, you will remain identified as a baddie, as a potential criminal, as someone who deserves zero trust. That's the reality. So we've gone from being people who are, if you like, presumed innocent until proven guilty. The whole thing is being inverted in the future. That we'll be guilty, we'll be fraudsters, we'll be hackers, we'll be not who we say we are. Anything negative you can think about, that's the way in which we will be regarded unless and until we can prove the difference, and that will be by submitting to this digital identification. It was all there in the word choice, lockdown. I noticed lockdown at the time, you know, when the politicians started talking about it. It registered, you know. It was like something that I swallowed, and on the way down it hurt. But I didn't think about it properly. I just noticed it. But gradually, though, I realised it was prison parlance. Lockdown is what prison authorities do within a prison if they even sniff the possibility of a revolt, of a rebellion, of trouble. They lock down all the prisoners. So even if they suspect that maybe just 2 or 3 are proposing to start trouble, they lock down 1,000 people. So that was interesting to me once I started thinking about it. Interesting, to put it mildly, that they were using prison language. And why were they using prison language? Because that's how they see us, and that's how they want to treat us, as criminals who need to be in digital chains in case any of us decide to do anything. So you're convicted in advance. Thought crime, anything you might do, you're better just lock them down. even if they're innocent. Just lock them in their cells. And now we know that no less than the military, no less than the British Army, no less than military intelligence was being applied against us. That files were being kept, that tweets were being read, and presumably some kind of score put against them from 0 to 10 as potential troublemaker. And this was going on while millions of people were being tricked. And I say that because some of the same DNA, some of the same genetics that was in the 77th Brigade and whatever else was used to keep an eye on us was there in the nudge units anyway. We know that psychological techniques, psyops, were being applied to try and get the mass of the population to do things, to behave in a certain way. It was propaganda by any other name. And millions of people were tricked into thinking things like, we're all in it, we're all in danger, danger, danger. And also, we're all in it together. From the Queen down to the lowliest serf, we're all in it together and we've all got to do our bit. So this was what was being pushed, and yet so many of us could see plainly that was not what was actually the case. That politicians and our leaders were having parties, and having drinking sessions together behind closed doors because they weren't afraid, because they knew there was nothing to be afraid of. So all of the breaches that subsequently came to light, birthday cake this, Winegate that. Once you looked at it with that cynical eye, you realised that everything was just about control of us, the little people. Control imposed by these mini tyrants. And when it wasn't as subtle as propaganda, it was just outright oppression by overmighty police and other myrmidons of the state. And when everything was being used to keep us under control. So it's in that context that learning that military intelligence, sanctioned by the Cabinet Office, was keeping record of anybody who's speaking up. It's hardly surprising. That confirmation that we were being watched, that files were being kept. To me, that just underlines what I thought and said for the longest time, that none of it was about public health, and it was all about control. That's all it was about. They weren't frightened because they knew there was nothing to be frightened of, which is why they kept mixing, which is why they didn't social distance, which is why they were in each other's company, unmasked and all the rest of it, because it was about control. And what's deeply disturbing, now we've got this information, now we know that the way in which we were being treated and regarded and the techniques that were being used to keep an eye on us, those who seized control were demonstrably wrong about everything, but they don't care. That's what's really harrowing. They don't care because by the application of their misinformation and their propaganda, they got the control that they wanted, and they've still got it now. So you pull back from it and you look around. Look at what's happened at the same time. If you that game you play with a cat with a torch. Where you put the circle on the wall or on the floor, the cat jumps at it. Bright thing. Oh, moved. Bright thing. That's what they were doing with COVID, with climate crisis, with war in Ukraine, the whole 15-minute cities. Look over there. Look. COVID. War in Ukraine. Well, climate crisis, right? So they were playing with us, and while they had us distracted, everything else happened. Online harms bill, the one that's going to take away freedom of speech. Legislation that's going to make it illegal to strike. More legislation to make it impossible for public protest. The 15-minute cities already mentioned. The climate crisis, which is the biggest hoax in history. It's all about maintaining control. Keep the people jittery, take control. And now it's digital IDs, as I say. And that's going to finally slam the digital cage shut. The cage is made of central bank digital currencies and mandatory procedures and goodness knows what else. And if you're worried now about the surveillance that was put in place to keep an eye on us, if you were worried about what happened in the past, it is as nothing compared to the surveillance that's going to be possible with the digital ID. That whole digital framework is going to mean that moment by moment they will have visibility of everything we do and everywhere we go, everyone we meet, everyone we talk to, what we say when we're together. The whole works will be surveyed all the time, 24 hours a day, forever. So that the confirmation that the 77th Brigade and the surveillance of free citizens sanctioned from the Cabinet Office down was going on. It's the least of it. The issue is this: the government and their scientists and their lackeys were wrong. They pushed misinformation. They imposed lockdowns that have caused immeasurable harm, immeasurable damage done, that will last for generations to come. That's a fact. You know, the developmental harm that's been caused to the youngest. You know, I watched, you know, on the breakfast news this morning, you know, the Princess of Wales, Kate, has been made the figurehead of championing the importance of the first 5 years of a child's life, right? Which we all know, you know, from the moment of conception until you're 5, it's kind of important in terms of shaping and making the person that you're going to be. Like, excuse me, they want to have a campaign about that, spearheaded by a member of the royal family, after the 3 years we've just had. They even had footage of Kate cradling someone's baby in her arms, and while she was doing so, she was wearing a mask. Right? Therein lies the developmental harm that was done to those babies. You know, because a baby needs to see an adult's face to start reading cues, to see smiles, to see words being formed on lips and with the tongue. All of that is being absorbed by the baby, like the world's most effective sponge. So the fact that they illustrated what Princess Kate is all about now, showing her with a baby, with a mask on her face, absolutely underlined the problem. You know, where was concern for the first 5 years of a baby, when from pregnant women onwards, with shut schools, shut nurseries, babies looking out at nothing but masked faces, no access to their extended family. And now they've got the temerity to say that they're going to put Princess Kate in front of a campaign to champion the first 5 years of a child's life. Hypocrisy. I don't know where to start with that. But all of that was done to us. We warned about it. We said they were monitoring us while we said that. They didn't like that we were pointing it out. They didn't like that we were saying that lockdowns and all the rest would cause all of this harm. Now it's been proven to be the case, and there is no acknowledgement of the wrong that was done, far less any kind of an apology for it. So, as far as I'm concerned, watch this space. The idea that we were being watched, so what? Because the extent to which we're going to be watched and surveyed and surveilled in the future, just wait and see what's coming now.